Welcome to this week's presentation of PEP, PED 420, Adaptive Physical Education, or Exercise Prescription for Individuals with Disabilities. This is your instructor, Dr. Chad Kish, and I'll provide you with an instructional video for Module 11. Module 11 continues with our learning in Unit 3. In Module 10, we started with Chapter 17, Facilitating Social Acceptance and Inclusion. So for this module and the next module, 11 and 12, we will dive into Chapter 20, Including Students with Disabilities in Community-Based Recreation Program. Your case study will actually go along here with Unit 3, and you'll have your 3 parts of your case study assignment. Make sure you look at the case study assignment information link and page located in Module 10 to get all the specific due dates. That's a 3-part assignment with your case study paper, your case study presentation visual, and your case study video lecture. So this week, we will focus our learning for Module 11 on Chapter 20. Make sure you read Chapter 20 here of the textbook, Adapted Physical Education, the 4th edition by Martin Block, and pay close attention to all the information on community-based recreation programming. This video lecture will try to fill in the gaps and provide you with some additional information, as well as explain at a deeper level the information here in the textbook. I want to show you our Module 11. If you go to your Canvas page, this is your Module 11 information, Community-Based Recreation Part 1. Right here it goes into what Unit 3 is, week 10 through 13, with week 13 being the culminating activity with your Unit 3 exam and your video presentation of your case study. Here are our big ideas for our Module 11 and 12 that covers all of Chapter 20. I'll explain those in the presentation as well. If you see, our Chapter 20 objectives are things that you should know and be able to do by the end of Chapter 20, written directly aligned with our big ideas. And then we will go over our specific reading materials and assignments for this module. Make sure you stay on track, and remember that transitioning to online learning requires some self-paced, self-directed learning and a time commitment each week. So we're back to our presentation here, and here's our to-do list for the week. Read Chapter 20, including individuals with disabilities and community-based recreation program. Please read the textbook, otherwise you probably won't be as successful on the Unit 3 exam as you could be, and you won't have the knowledge base when you go out and work in the field if you don't do some background reading. As a college student, that's important in a 400 level class to read and understand. Number 2, watch this video presentation, which if you're here, you're already doing that. And then number 3, read the handout on the case study paper assignment that is located in Module 10, and then the assignment box is located in this module, in Module 11, to submit your case study paper. It was assigned before spring break. The only thing different on the case study paper is you have a extra week to turn that in. I pushed the deadline back a week. So here are our assignments for the week. When you get done with this presentation, I'll actually explain it within the presentation. Why participate? So you'll do the activity, why participate, and make sure you're taking notes and actively watching this presentation so you're able to complete that assignment to the best of your ability. So the case study paper is due on Sunday, April 5th at 8 p.m. That was previously assigned. Make sure you look at the assignment box, spend your time, do your background research, follow the format, and do a really good job. And then look ahead to Module 12 through 14. In Module 12, we will wrap up Chapter 20, and you will have your case study presentation visual due. Same assignment as we assigned before spring break with a new deadline. In Module 13, we will have our Unit 3 exam, and your case study video presentation will be due. Pay close attention to the information in Module 10 to help you do the case study video presentation. That is replaces your in-class presentation of your case study. And then look at Module 14. That is where I'll discuss the final assignment, which replaces the observation assignment. I'll give you some details on that. If you are pretty far along in your observation, I'll send you a separate email to have you do the observation reflection paper, just like you would. And it depends on where you were at your deadline on spring break. And if not, we will have an exercise prescription assignment that I'll go over the details in Module 14, and it'll be due in Module 15. So once again, don't forget your Why Participate assignment, which is due Thursday, April 2nd by 8 p.m., and it's going to be embedded here in this lecture. So here are our objectives for Chapter 20. We want to understand the laws related to community recreation and sports for individuals with disabilities. We'll identify barriers to community-based recreation and sport for individuals with disabilities. Why can't they get to these programs that are offered for them? Next, we'll describe the empowerment model for overcoming the barriers. We will also describe the 9-step model for implementing an inclusive approach to recreation for individuals with disabilities or special needs populations. And we will wrap up Chapter 20 and actually in Module 12 with describing special sports organizations that provide sports programs for special needs populations and individuals with disabilities. So let's get started. Chapter 20. Let's introduce the chapter, kind of frame ourselves the way we do, looking at an individual situation to try to visualize the information for the chapter in a application type method. So here's our scenario. Chris plays baseball and football for the Parks and Recreation Department. He's a 12-year-old. He enjoys playing baseball and football and other sports, and his whole family really makes an event of it and comes to watch. So Chris is our regular education student that is participating in baseball and football. Nathan is Chris's 7-year-old brother, right? He has Down syndrome. So if we don't know, Down syndrome is a genetic disorder caused by the presence of all or part of a third copy of the 21st chromosome. It's typically associated with physical growth delays, characteristics such as facial features, and usually is coupled with mild to moderate intellectual disabilities. Difficulty with social interactions, limited interest and desire for structure is also associated with Down syndrome. When I work with students with Down syndrome, these were students that really like to replicate what they were seeing. They like to imitate. You had to really do a lot of modeling. So the students would try to imitate, but they would want to do what you did. So you needed to realize that those students' eyes are on you, and you needed to really be a good demonstrator. So Chris, he comes to he plays at the Parks and Rec. So Nathan always enjoys watching his brother play. While watching Chris play at a game, he starts saying, "Me play too, me play too." And this happens over and over for several weeks. Chris and Nathan's parents originally start by saying, "Sorry, Nathan, you can't play." One day in the car on the way home, Chris asked his parents, "Why can't Nathan play? Can't we find a team for him to be a part of? The Parks and Rec offers programs for his age." Nathan then persists and repeatedly says, "Me play too, please, please, please," and starts crying in the car. As Chris consoles him, their parents go home and start discussing, what can we do to provide Nathan with an opportunity like Chris? He looks up to his older brother and wants to be just like him. So if you think about it, if we were in a classroom, we'd start a discussion here. What can their parents do in order to provide Nathan with some recreational activities? So how would you go about that? Number one, you could find a program designed specifically for individuals with disabilities or a special needs student, somebody with Down syndrome, like Nathan. So you would research and find a program such as Special Olympics, possibly Paralympics, or Challenger Baseball. And we'll go over all those programs in the next module. Another thing you would do is research and find a program that could just make modifications specifically for Nathan. This is not a completely specialized program. This would be a community program where Nathan would be able to play with his non-disabled peers. So what you would do is research various community options that could support Nathan and make some adaptations or regular program modifications to allow him to play with peers his age. So why should individuals with disabilities or special needs populations participate in sports and recreational activities? First of all, these individuals have a desire to participate in sports and activities. They want to be just like peers their age. They get, by participating in recreational sports, activity programs, community-based programs, or even programs for their regular PE classes, they gain the basic skills and desire the activity in these programs by watching friends and family play and just seeing what's going on in their surroundings. So most of these individuals start to have a desire to participate in community-based programs or competitive sports. It's very important for us to provide those programs for them. So why should they participate? We'll go over the 4 different reasons. Number 1, participation increases a variety of skills in all other areas of their life. Research shows participation in sports improves problem-solving skills, personal behavior, social relationships, motor skills, and even academic subjects such as reading and math. So when students participate in these activities, they gain skills such as communication, teamwork, problem solving, overcoming barriers. So that's a real critical skill set that these students can learn by participating, just like your general participants. We always say we want to participate in athletics for a variety of reasons, but also think of the various health benefits that can be gained by participating in these programs. Number 2, an increase in activities can also decrease inappropriate behaviors. So the idea of unstructured or downtime can lead to boredom in young individuals or all aged individuals of the special needs population. And this usually leads to increased off-task behavior, such as self-stimulatory behavior, could even lead to self-injurious behavior, or excess eating. In most of the special needs population, I believe it's about 80% is overweight or has health problems related to being overweight. So an increase in any type of recreation pursuits helps decrease inappropriate and off-task behaviors, which leads to a better lifestyle. Number 3, constructive use of leisure time usually improves the chance for success in future independent or community-based living for the special needs individual. So these activities can help promote communication, cooperation, self-esteem, and improve social skills. These skills lead to a better chance for employment and also reduce the need for constant supervision. We need to remember these individuals, after they complete our programs, are going to want to live a normal lifestyle, and that's going to include moving out of their parents' home at some time in their life. So when we teach them how to participate, they learn how to ask for help, how to overcome obstacles, how to critically think, and how to plan. And number 4, activities can improve the quality of life. For many people, including special needs population, recreation is the most enjoyable part of the day. We look at our NASB standards, and NASB standard number 5 is participating because we enjoy it for aesthetic needs, for self-actualization. So it's very important for us to consider that these activities can improve the quality of life for our special needs population. So when we look at these 4 things, it's important that we took good notes on that, because that leads into our modules assignment. Why participate? So what you'll do in this why participate assignment, go to Canvas, click on the assignment. All this information and a little more is detailed there for you to be able to complete it and submit it by Thursday, April 2nd at 8 p.m., which is the deadline. So what you'll do in this assignment, you're going to list 1 through 4, the 4 reasons why individuals with disabilities should participate in sports and activities. And we just went over that on the last slide. So if you need to rewind this lecture, go ahead and do that. So there are 4 reasons on the slide why individuals with disabilities should participate. I need you to start out by listing them and number them 1 through 4. And then the format for this assignment is, under each number, you're going to explain what reason means, what each reason means in several detailed sentences. I want 1 to 2 well-constructed college-level sentences up to a paragraph maximum under each reason. So you're going to have our reasons, number 1 through 4, and then you're going to explain them in your own words using the background information from the book or this lecture on why, what each of these reasons means. So once again, complete and submit that in Canvas. It's due Thursday, April 2nd by 8 p.m. We'll move along to another part of the lecture. It's important as we move out into the profession that we understand community recreation laws. So remember when we went back to some of our federal laws that we learned in the first couple of chapters back before spring break, the ADA, or American with Disability Act, was a federal law designed to prevent individuals with disabilities from being treated differently. Its purpose was to attempt to eliminate discrimination based on a disability. This law went into effect in 1990. Remember, it's not an affirmative action program. It is designed to provide opportunities so people aren't discriminated against. The law is written and provides a variety of different examples to protect individuals with disabilities in a wide range of public and private sectors, such as education, transportation, housing, employment, and recreation. So in our career field, it's important that we understand how the ADA applies in both education and recreation opportunities. So that's what we're going to move on to next, the application of ADA. So here's an example. It would be a violation of the ADA, American with Disability Act, to tell a participant with Down syndrome, such as Nathan in our example, that they can't play Little League Baseball. If we're running the Little League Baseball program, if we are the program coordinator, director, or even a coach, we can't dismiss Nathan just because he has Down syndrome. So the ADA law is applied by a person with disabilities cannot be denied something because we think the sport or activity is just too dangerous. We need to remember everyone has a certain degree of risk when participating, and if the risk factor for Nathan is similar to other students, maybe just increased by 10 to 15%, it would be a violation of ADA to say, Nathan, you can't play Little League Baseball. It might just be too dangerous for you. Next, if it's deemed the individual is a direct threat to the health or safety of themselves or others, they may be excluded from the activity. So you may tell Nathan, if he runs off task, doesn't pay attention, that this activity might not be for him. But he really has to be a direct threat to the health and safety of themselves or others. And it has to be at a much higher rate than the average peer. So here are a couple things how ADA would apply. We have to understand the idea or concept of reasonable accommodation. An adaptation to a program, facility, or workplace that allows a person with disabilities or special needs population to participate in the program or service. So this means we must make accommodations according to ADA. Right? Anything that is not an undue hardship could be seen as a reasonable accommodation. So I will explain what an undue hardship is. An undue hardship is an action that is considered significantly difficult. It could be costly, could be very extensive, provide a variety of different layers that need to be completed, or might be considered substantial or disruptive to the activity, or that it fundamentally alters the nature of the program for everybody else. So if what we need to provide a individual like Nathan fits in this category, too difficult, very costly, really fundamentally change the nature of the program, it would be considered an undue hardship, and it would not be considered a reasonable accommodation. So then Nathan could be excluded from our regular program. But we need to do everything we can for individuals with disabilities to provide reasonable accommodations. All right, so here are the background information on reasonable accommodations and undue hardships in the presentation. There's additional information in the text. We'll continue our information on the ADA with what are some recreational programs, what are their requirements to meet ADA mandates. First of all, if we understand reasonable accommodations, we must meet all those reasonable accommodations and try to attempt to allow students like Nathan an opportunity to participate in our program. We have to then provide an opportunity to participate. If it is open to the public, our recreation program, we must allow the individual with a disability an opportunity to participate. We can't say, oh, sorry, you can't come, you're different, you're special. If we have a community-based program, we must provide them an opportunity. If there are criteria such as a tryout, where possibly an unskilled player is cut, or we have different criteria for participation, we might have 15 slots and there are 20 people that try to sign up, so we'll have to exclude some participants. That is the only way that an individual with disability could be excluded from our community-based program. So we have to remember, though, they may be excluded because they don't meet the criteria for selection. They don't have the specific skills needed, but we cannot exclude them because they have the disability. So if they're the only person you're going to exclude from your program, it would be a violation of ADA to do that. If they have enough skill and ability to be involved in your program, we should not exclude them. So it's critical to remember we must provide an opportunity to participate, and the individuals could be excluded if we have a tryout where there are cuts and the individual with disability is not the only person cut from the program. Another thing we have to consider is the facilities must be accessible to special needs populations. First, accommodations that do not require an undue hardship to an organization must be made. So facilities built after 1993 are required to meet all ADA requirements and building codes. Any facility before that needs to be retrofitted and to meet ADA, but this is where the undue hardship clause comes in for facilities. You are required to make reasonable accommodations. So if you have a large facility with multiple fields, say we have a soccer park that has 9 soccer fields, as long as you make several of those ADA compliant with no stairs, easy access to the bathroom, concession stands, parking facilities, and we make sure we schedule all of the teams that might have an individual with disability on those specific fields, you would not be required to make all of your fields ADA accessible if your facility was built before 1993. So an undue hardship would be the cost required to retrofit all of your fields. But it is required that you make reasonable accommodations, and that is expected. So this includes one stall in the bathroom needs to be ADA compliant. You don't need to make every single stall in the bathroom. That would be cost prohibitive. But as long as you turn one stall into the bathroom, or if you have a very, very large bathroom, you might turn several stalls into ADA compliant stalls. They're bigger, usually have some handles in there for individuals to steady themselves or possibly lift themselves off of their wheelchair. Make 1 to 2 stalls in your bathroom ADA compliant. Remember, this also includes having the correct number of parking spaces at your facility and making sure you have 1 or more fields or facilities that are accessible and scheduled appropriately for individuals that need accommodations. So there's some background information on the American with Disability Act and how it applies to various recreation programs and facilities. So let's look a little bit at some other state and federal laws that apply to community-based recreation programs. First of all, the Fitness and Athletic Equity for Students with Disabilities Act was enacted in 2008. It was put into effect due to a Maryland legal case. So Maryland had legislation resulted from a federal court case rewarding a high school athlete that had spina bifida that was not allowed to compete on their high school track team. They won this lawsuit and turned the Maryland Athletic Association into having to provide different programming for individuals with disabilities. The Missouri State High School Association, Activities Association now has included a variety of sporting programs for special needs population, including the adaptive part of the high school state track and field championships. So realize that fitness and athletic equity for students with disabilities comes into effect, and it may require schools, depending on your state, and if you're public or private, to include individuals with disabilities in their physical education classes and athletic activities. In most states, special needs individuals are required specific time on PE, all right, and that's covered. But athletic activities, right now, it is just encouraged that you attempt to provide athletic activities with reasonable accommodations in the state of Missouri and most states. The last thing to do with this act is the legislation that came out of it said we must provide students with reasonable accommodations to participate. We have to allow them the chance to try out for school teams, and we need to provide some access to alternative sports and opportunities. So as a school district or as a community-based recreation program, we need to consider these reasonable accommodations and chances to participate for special needs population. Another federal law that plays into this that we need to just revisit that we learned earlier in our learning for this course, the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 states that schools must provide opportunities for individuals with disabilities that are similar to your general student population in physical activity and sports. So the opportunities for individuals with disabilities needs to be equal to their peers that are non-disabled. So in a letter in 2013 that followed up on this act from the Office of Civil Rights, which is known as the OCR, you'll hear in the future, it followed up on this law by calling for schools to proactively include students with disabilities in their programs, provide reasonable accommodations, and attempt to use some common sense adaptations that don't change the structure of the games. So in Missouri, the Missouri State High School Activities Association has added Paralympic activities, and once again that goes back to the previous act in 2008, to their track and field meet, and are looking for some other opportunities to include. So what are some barriers that individuals with disabilities have to community-based recreation? So physical activity guidelines for Americans state that we should play 60. You've probably heard of the Play 60 campaign. So the Department of Health and Human Services, the DHHS, recommends that all youth participate in 60 minutes of moderate to vigorous physical activity each day. You might see this abbreviated in some different things, MVPA. That's moderate to vigorous physical activity. And this is every day, not once a week. So in 2008, the Department of Health and Human Services had a report, and it stated that activities should include aerobic, muscular, and bone strengthening activities for students and should be required for an hour each day. So here are some of the barriers. We'll go over 3 barriers here. First of all, there are participant barriers. What is a participant barrier? It's when the individual with disability lacks the physical and/or cognitive skills needed to participate in a regular community sports program. So that is some barriers that actual individual with disabilities has. They may not be able to fit in a general program. They may need specialized programming due to multiple or the severity of their disabilities. Next is the programmatic barriers. These are barriers we need to think of when we're providing our programs. That means there are a lack of options for organized physical activity for an individual with disability in either the school or community setting. So these programmatic barriers are ones that we have to systematically plan to overcome. What does that mean? PE programs often emphasize non-lifetime activities such as football, basketball, volleyball, track and field, but we should also consider offering activities for individuals to use, not just individuals with disabilities, but all individuals to use that cover a broad spectrum across the lifespan. These might introduce all of our students and different people to community-based recreation programs. Think of things such as bowling, tennis, table tennis, ping pong, golf, hiking, weight training, aerobics. So if you think of some of the activities that people do once they are outside of a team sports setting, those are some of the activities we need to provide to overcome some of these programmatic barriers. Our third barrier to community-based recreation is the external barriers. What does this mean? That means participation in community recreation and sports programs may require things such as money, transportation, and even specialized equipment. There are various grant programs and different ways, different community organizations that can help these individuals overcome external barriers. But as professionals, we need to try to offer support, provide direction to those support groups, and help plan to overcome these gaps. You might need to plan your facility or when you're building it to be on a public transportation route, like the Special Olympics of Missouri program did in their facility here in Jefferson City. So we need to help plan to overcome these external barriers and try to find resources to help these individuals overcome these. So we want to look at the empowerment model. How can we help individuals with disabilities overcome these three barriers we discussed? First of all, we can provide training. This training is designed to help give us as professionals or the individuals we work with, such as coaches and community-based instructors, the specific knowledge and skills needed to successfully implement a developmentally appropriate and differentiated instruction or program for these individuals. So we need to have professional development, training, things outside of this course to prepare us to provide opportunities for special needs individuals. Next part of the empowerment model is support, right? The support can be direct or indirect. It can be provided by a mentor who is trained and willing to provide support to either the individual or the coach. So think of this as a buddy that can help participate with the individual when they're playing in a team sport or possibly participating in a recreational activity. But the coaches that don't have background need the training and then some supports, which is ongoing training. It might be equipment. It might just be some ideas on some models and some adaptations and modifications to make. So we need to provide support, both either indirect or indirect, to coaches and program coordinators. And then the third part of the empowerment model here is programs should be designed to meet specific needs of the individuals with disabilities, as well as typically developing peers who are invited or decide to participate in the program. There are a lot of allied programs out there that have disabled peers participating alongside of non-disabled peers. These are some of the great programs out there that allow individuals with disabilities to have social opportunities as well as recreational opportunities alongside the peers that they want to be a part of, the peer group they want to be a part of. So having these allied programs is critical. So when we interact here, thinking about this, all three of these parts go together. The training, supports, and program design should all overlap and be intertwined and work cooperatively together to promote a successful experience. So look at the textbook and read about the empowerment model, which was proposed by Moran and others back in 2015. And read about the multi-tiered continuum approach of training, support, and programming to help address and overcome barriers to physical activity programming for special needs individuals. So go ahead and read about that in the textbook and get a little bit more information. So there are 9 steps to implementing inclusive recreation programs, and we will wrap up our presentation with these 9 steps and then have an assignment reminder. So these 9 steps of implementing inclusive recreation start with number 1, we want to assess individuals with disabilities interest. How do we do that? First of all, we can ask them. We can do a survey. Sometimes surveys are confusing. Just asking parents of individuals with disabilities can help you find out the interest. This could be done in an IEP meeting, or if you go back to our scenario at the beginning, if you run a community-based recreation program and you see a special needs individual along with their family, possibly watching a sibling participate, you might ask the family if the individual with disability would like to participate in your program. This will help you identify some possible recreational activities. If you're a PE teacher, like I said, it's critical in that IEP meeting to bring up the long-term recreational activities and pursuits for this individual. Another thing we can do is assist in the registration process. If we're a PE teacher or a community program coordinator or coach, how do we help these individuals get registered? We have to also think that a lot of times individuals with disabilities have parents that also have disabilities. So parents are going to struggle to get them registered as well as provide transportation and sometimes the fees. So how can we assist with this? Number 2, our second step of implementing an inclusive program. Determine the individual's ability levels and interest. Can we possibly make some modifications or adaptations to put them in a general program? Or do they have multiple disabilities or severity of disabilities that we need to just really look at specialized programs such as Special Olympics? After we determine their ability level and interest, because somebody has to be interested to want to persist with participation, we will find a program that fits their needs and can meet a variety of things. We have to think about the constraints, the financial constraints, transportation constraints, and make sure it really fits their specific participation wants and needs. Part 3 of the 9-step approach is data gathering. This is where we'll continue to discuss with participants and parents what programming they would like to have, what constraints they have, what questions, concerns, and anticipated accommodations might be necessary. Like I said, as a PE teacher, this could be in your IEP meeting and continued ongoing discussion, or as a community-based recreation coordinator, it could be with parents that inquire about the program, or you could cooperate with special programming to see what their students have, your special community programs. All right, we will talk about steps 4, 5, and 6 of the inclusive recreation implementation model here. Number 4, we need to provide accommodations. After we've met with the individual, we've done some background analysis, we will determine the exact actual needs of the individual. So how will then we need to provide accommodations and modifications so they can participate? This will consider a variety of things, such as assistive devices, facility modifications we may need to meet, Hopefully our facility is already ADA compliant. Are there any instructional accommodations? Are there any rules for various activities that we need to change, modify, or alter for this individual or the entire program? Do we need interpreters? Is there a program that offers financial assistance, or can we possibly waive some of the program fees? And what kind of transportation is needed? Is there a local program that offers assistance to individuals with special needs in transportation that could come pick them up with a specially modified bus? Do the parents have the van that has the wheelchair lift? How can we help them overcome those transportation barriers? Number 5, we need to make sure that our staff is well trained. Physical education teachers will have this class and some other information and should aspire to attend some professional development and work in cooperation with your special populations coordinator at your school or your special education coordinator. But we should have some individual and program goals for our staff. We should also teach our community-based recreation staff how to work with individuals with disabilities, how to collect data, and then how to teach or provide recreation programming. Number 6, this is where participation occurs. We want to, after step 1 through 5, that's a lot of the planning and preparing, but this is where the participant really comes in. How do we integrate that individual in the activity? We allow them to play. We continue to modify as needed while they're participating. And then what are we going to do to collect some specific data? Is there data required on the IEP, or is it required for our community-based programming grant, or is it required to state and federal government entities? So we need to make sure we're collecting our specific data along the way while the individual's participating. The last 3 parts of the 9-step process are number 7, once we're in participation, we should follow up. This could be along the way or along the way and at the conclusion of the programming. So the program coordinator, teacher, or case manager will then meet with the student/participant, staff, or parents and families to determine the degree of success of the program, what problems were there, and what are the solutions to overcome those problems in the future for this student or a similar individual with disabilities. Number 8, we need to evaluate the overall experience after we followed up. This could include interviews or possibly surveys with the participant, the staff, or any companions, buddies, coaches, assistant coaches, paraprofessionals, to help evaluate and assess the overall experience. Like I said, this evaluation could take place in a variety of ways. It could be a face-to-face interview, even a phone call or a video chat, or some kind of written survey that's on paper or online. And the final step of this process is the documentation of progress. This is going to be required in an IEP, but it's also going to be important, like I said, for some of your documentation due to the state and federal guidelines for your programming, especially if you're state funded. So you're going to have to complete and distribute a full report on the progress of the student and the overall experience. You should probably document the overall progress, create one report, and then send out specific portions of the report back to different individuals. So you might send the specific part of the report to the family of the participant that you talk about some problems and solutions and how you want to overcome that. All right, so those are the 9 steps of implementing inclusive recreation. I tied that a little bit to a school PE program with IEPs, but that's really focused on our community-based recreation programs. So we'll wrap up today's video lecture for Module 11 with just reviewing your assignments. So your first assignment embedded into this lecture is why participate. That is an assignment link on Canvas. It is open and it is due on Thursday, April 2nd by 8 p.m. Follow the directions and format Do that well-written, unplagiarized original work and submit that no later than Thursday, April 2nd by 8 p.m. You can always submit assignments early. Next, you can look at the Chapter 20 quiz. The Chapter 20 quiz is actually going to be due later. I'll change this. But it is in Module 12 at the conclusion of Chapter 20. But if you want to go ahead and look ahead and start that out, feel free, because we've covered all the information that's going to be on that quiz at this point. All right, and then the last thing you want to do is look ahead to your case study paper assignment. Hopefully you've been working on that. It's due Sunday, April 5th by 8 p.m. It was assigned about a month or 6 weeks ago. The assignment doesn't change. The only thing that changed was the deadline. Make sure you do your case study paper assignment on your assigned topic and follow the format directly. That is a large assignment, a big part of the grade for this class. It really goes over how we modify activities. It really puts all of your stuff we learned before spring break into application in that case study. Do a good job on that. It needs to be well written and it needs to follow the specific format and submitted before Sunday, April 15th. I'll give you feedback within a day or two so you can start developing your case study presentation visual in Module 12 and preparing for your video presentation in Module 13. Your final assignment is also in Module 14. You can look ahead to that, and that replaces the observation assignment. There'll be a couple of options. If you have 10 hours or more done by spring break that was submitted on your log, you'll be able to do the observation reflection paper. If you have less than 10 hours, you will do a exercise prescription assignment based on your number of hours you submitted. So look ahead to Module 14 for that information. Hey, thanks for listening to the video. Remember, most individuals with disabilities want to be treated like all of their non-disabled peers. So we need to provide them community-based recreation programs that allow them to participate with their peers. What we'll do in Module 12 is we will look at community-based programming that is specifically designed for individuals with disabilities that need to be in a special program due to the severity of their disability, possibly multiple disabilities, or their wants and needs to be able to compete on a level playing field. Hey, thanks for participating. Good luck with all your assignments, and don't hesitate to email. I'm only a click away to assist you in meeting your educational needs and desires.